but then we also know that this uh, gap in attainment between men and women, where now women are much more likely to have more educational attainment than men, it's bad for family formation. People aren't getting married,
Right.
because because the you tend to marry someone of a similar level of educational attainment
Right.
as yourself, in part because you're likely to meet them at an educational institution. um, but it's actually, from a family formation perspective, it's imbalanced. Women having the more educational attainment than men is worse for family formation than men having more educational attainment than women.
Right. Right.
Even fewer marriages are forming because of that gap than it would if it were the other way around.
Yeah.
So we're having
we see that in higher education, where women are. I think is it something like they're 4 times more likely now. It could even be more of going to college, which there's an argument against that as well.
Sure.
For anybody, not just women, for anybody.
Yeah.
But also then you go out in the world, and if you're a woman who's got a career and you're trying to match with said guy, who are your prospects and what do they bring to the table? Not so much in a exchange information, although that's where our secular relationships are going these days. But are you going to want to marry the person who might make $80,000 a year, but also adds nothing in the conversation other than the paycheck? Well, hopefully for the Christian, the answer is no. But there are always defeaters to those that can get in play. He's a man of God who reads only World War II books, but is the bricklayer who brings home the bacon. The rank choices of the Christian are going to be different than the secular person who's going to look for, I need to match someone on that level. I can't talk sports every single day, or we get the type of relationships we see in Married with Children type of sitcoms where everyone knows that relationship would never happen. So what do we stand to lose here? And by fathers not being not so much the primary caregiver of education, but not playing this more central role. And we've kind of talked a little bit about this with the responsibility, the breakdown of the first level of government that God instituted was the government of the family after establishing, creation and creating it all. So he's got the initial government, but the government of the family is there. And so the
creature creator, the next level of government,
the wide gap. Yes. So there we understand that the father can't lead the family well if he's out of sync that way. But I also was thinking too that kids not being taught in a different way adds to that. The way that the structure of homeschool curriculum is laid out is there very helpful. And if one doesn't work for you, try 82 of them. Now you could almost say you have too many choices. It's the Bernie Sanders. There's too many deodorants out in the world, and that's suddenly a problem. It's like, well, only if you're going to sit there and do a smell test for each one of them. So we're over inundated with resources. That's not the problem, but it's sometimes, well, I wasn't taught that, or here's a way that I was taught in a different way where, we're learning money instead of looking at it in a book. We actually get it out, or we play pretend of going to the store and talking about, how to make change and things like that. So teaching in the different way, I think, would falter because the way that the wife thinks, the way the man thinks in any relationship, in any way, if you're going to have a marriage relationship, and that's one of the benefits of the marriage relationship is the father's going to look at cost ratio. The wife is going to look at the happiness quotient in there, which are both important, or vice versa. The dad says, I want to do this fun thing. The wife says, no, we can't do it this week, but let's wait until next month when I have a coupon. Like there's the benefits for that. So I think we lose the ability to teach differently to our kids in different ways. And they see dads, if they're off in the corner, just resting after a grueling day, but then not contributing to their education. It's, well, now I'm not going to dad for anything. I'm only going to mom for things. And we lose that underlying aspect of not so much you can go to your dad for these things. It's like, yeah, but I always go to mom for these things. And it becomes very focused then on one parent because that's always the route of, I need to learn something. I'm being educated that way.
This even has implications for, look, a child's education is a major portion of their upbringing in terms of time, attention, priority, and in all elements of a child's upbringing, both the Bible and research are very clear that authoritative and not authoritarian parenting. The extremes are permissiveness and authoritarianism, where the golden mean, if you will, is authoritativeness. And
relationship versus legalism, right?
Yeah. And I feel that this has dads and moms approach that balance differently and complementarily, which is why children should have both of them. And I feel that when dads aren't involved in education, it lets some of the dad's approach to authority slip away, which is the most obvious, slip away from this aspect of the child's life, their education. But it also fails to connect the dad with the tenderness that can come from talking about your child's educational needs will connect you to some of their tender needs as an individual person in ways that other aspects of their upbringing don't. And it also, look, if dad's being put in the role, one of the things that study that I was referring to says is that that he surveyed the books that are actually in public school classrooms, and 6.1 American public school classrooms, 6.1% of those books were nonfiction. When we know this is the one that I quoted as boys are going to tend towards nonfiction. 6.1% of the books being assigned in public school classes in the United States are nonfiction. So if the dad is having a conversation with the teachers, and having to say, look, as the only person in this conversation who has been a little boy and no longer is a little boy who can't advocate for himself, to be a little bit vulnerable and to say, I wouldn't have read this stuff you're assigning him either. Maybe he needs something that appeals to him a little bit more. Mm-hmm. That is a way of, I think, being vulnerable and tender, and filling that role of being the one to get in and be a little contentious if it's needed. that only a dad can provide a little boy. So I think part of what's happening here, what's happening here is that public schools don't have an incentive to actually serve the students. That's part of it. That's part of what's going on here.
Sure.
You're not going to get any argument from me here. That's what I say for a living. Okay.
But in a perfect world.
Yeah. So I understand that that's part of what's going on here. But I feel like part of what's going on here is that dad isn't coming along and saying, hey guys, did you realize you've assigned him like 3 diaries of teenage girls and not assigned him anything that he might be interested in?
Yeah, the American Girl route. Yeah.
And so that maybe his inability to perform well in this English class might have to do with you're expecting him to be a girl, right? Like, so anyway,
like, well, and seeing dads care is a big thing.
Yes.
You know, again, we talk about, so dads during sports is, different than mom versus sports, you know, you'll find, hopefully you'll find less painted bodies on the dad's side or on the mom's side than on the dad's side, but for different reasons. But having that, oh, my dad cares about this. He's at this meeting, or he's involved, or he is tired. My dad is always tired, but every Wednesday he's there, going over time or the times tables with me and quizzing me and making a game out of it, or what have you. Having the kids see, oh, dad thinks this is important. I know dad is tired. My dad took the same route that I did. Work 3rd shift so you can be involved in your kids' lives more and not have to pay babysitters as much. And I don't know where the chips fell on which was more important there. But you know, that was an important aspect of I see dad tired, but also I see him then involved even in these things. Where sometimes it's like, oh, I don't know how you're learning this. Go ask your mom on those things. But then go along with the child and say, like, let's figure out how long division is being done for you so that I'm not starting you from scratch. And so having fathers see that, or see fathers care about a subject, be super excited about, the history of it, because, man, how many aspects of teachers did we see where the teacher just in government schools just degrade a subject that you're like, oh, maybe economics was important, maybe history was important, maybe figuring out where I'm going to use this math later was important, and maybe I don't use it in my work life today, but having those connections form, that would have been important. That would have been interesting. All these YouTube videos that, oh, this teacher is teaching calculus to a 5th grade class in an simple to easy to understand way. Why do those videos go viral? Because we were never taught that way, because it's always been the cookie cutter way until you have this renegade come out. So having a father being interested in education and also being interested in a subject, I think, perks up the minds of kids and saying, oh, I want my kids to say the same things that I say back to them. Failure is important because it's through our failure we can figure out what we need to learn. I always want to tell them that it's not that you're bad at math or times tables or pick your poison there. It's I don't know it yet. And so framing that the study on that, especially for girls, of when girls hear it's okay, girls don't do well at math, it triggers it literally triggers.
The way that most frequently happens is mom says it's okay, I'm bad at math too. Right.
And where the dad's like, we're going to get it. We're going to get this. We're going to sit down and get this. Okay, I need to take a step back. I need a breather because I'm getting worked up, but we're going to go at this again. And so we're going to do it this different way. But when girls hear, it's okay, girls aren't usually good at math. oh, good, I don't have to learn this because girls are usually bad at math. And then it's just, it inundates itself. So, but then be interested in something. My kids know, why do we care about history? Because in order for us to know where we are, we have to know where we came from. And my kids could tell you that, and we've said it in public before too. So I haven't had to help them, but I want them to be interested in those things, because once I got out of being educated, went, oh, those were really important, and I find it even more important now. In fact, we should probably find it a bit even more important on top of that. So that kind of holistic education aspect of, it doesn't have to be like, oh, my dad's reading War and Peace. It's, oh, hey, here's the planet Earth 14. Remember when we learned about coral reef today? Well, Australia has the biggest coral reef, and here's a 20-minute video on it. And just having that aspect of dad making those connections. Oh, dad's making connections. Mom's making those connections. I'm going to make those connections. I'm going to share those connections with mom and dad, and then be excited about that and play into that. I think that's what we lose when it's just, oh no, I'm only going to tell mom about those things. It's kind of like discipline, right? If dad, just wait for dad is always the thing, then dad's going to be the thing to be feared, and not, there's not, you lose that relationship aspect. It's always then, the spank or the switch or the yelling, but also then the dad should always be willing to come down to the level, look him in the eye and go, all right, tell me what you did. And changing up that aspect of, it's never always, you messed up, go to your room aspect. It's, all right, we're going to have a conversation about this because it's important. Ooh, dad's not just sending me to the room. He's at my level. He's talking to me. Or mom takes the opposite approach. It's not always, hey, let's talk about this. Let's have a family matters type of, in 30 minutes, we're going to resolve this aspect. It's like, no, you've messed up and you need to, oh, mom's not always the loving care person. That this means something important. So having that aspect of kind of that holistic education here by including dad, even when you're tired, even when the material is not something because it might not be the material that mom knows. Maybe we all have to find together as a family on exactly when we care about calculus and why.